The Frontier Markets ETF is one of the year's best performers, but is it worth your money? Is it worth the risk? Good question. Let's get answers. Max Wolff of 55 Capital, Zach Karabell of Envestnet joining the Trading Nation team today. Max, let's be clear. Frontier markets are before emerging markets. I mean, these are risky markets with sometimes unstable political systems and governments. Do you think that the Frontier Market ETF is a good deal? Is it worth a gamble?
Yeah, so we think it has a place in a diversified portfolio. I think that it looks like a pretty strong bet in some of the places. So we really do sort of feel like there's reason to be positive on Argentina. Vietnam looks pretty interesting to me. So I like a whole bunch of the names in there, and I think the index makes some sense. On the other hand, there's a lot of strange bedfellows in there, and I'm not sure they belong together. So spend a little time making sure you know what you're buying. But yeah, I like this. I like this group.
Yeah, you like the group. I mean, and it should be said, we probably should have pointed this out, Zach, that the top two holdings are Kuwaiti companies. I mean, they're banks. So that's a stable government for whatever, the reasons.
We were talking about this before. I mean, it's Frontier. I'm not really sure the Frontier emerging
I wouldn't call Kuwait a frontier market
Exactly.
only because it's a very small, sort of dominantly controlled market with a commodity economy.
And in fact, it's not really emerging.
Very wealthy, by the way.
So you wouldn't even call it emerging. It's just a small market that usually, either because of market cap or just general investing mantras, gets overlooked in the greater scheme of portfolio construction. Clearly, part of the problem is a liquidity one, although a lot of these banks are, in the hundreds or billions of dollars, not hundreds of billions, they're in the high hundreds or low billions of dollars. So it's not, again, that these are such tiny, tiny things. They're more volatile mostly because money flows in and flows out depending on sentiment, fear, and momentum as much as it flows in and out based on underlying perception of fundamentals. So, it's definitely something you've got to be prepared for, that level of volatility that has very little to do with necessarily intrinsic fundamentals.
And because of the construction of these kind of indexes, I would always call people's attention to a fairly high expense ratio for a passive index replicator here. It's about 80 basis points.
Right.
It's not super cheap.
Although, again, as you said, it's a lot cheaper than a lot of the active funds, which themselves are also more expensive for these kind of exposures because you have to pay for, people doing research on rather obscure areas, which has its own expense bedded into it. So
yeah, and just take note, as we always say here on Trading Nation, if you buy an ETF, for goodness sake, the first thing you should look at is the holdings. Know what you own. This is 1/4 and a half, basically almost 1/4, a little more than 1/5 Kuwait.
Right. And very heavily financials as well.
Close to 50% financials. So
yeah, Kuwaiti National Bank, et cetera. Guys, good discussion there. Appreciate it. I think our first look at the FM, the Frontier Markets ETF. Zach and Max, thank you both very much. Folks, thank you for watching Trading Nation. I'm Brian Sullivan. We'll see you next time.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.